This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Do you play FanDuel and feel like you aren't creating consistent money-making lineups? Go over to the DFS Doctors on Twitter at the DFS Doctors and DM them with promo code Detroit Sports to get a free trial for their analytically formulated 70% lifetime profit rate NFL and NBA lineups. The whole purpose of playing daily fantasy sports is to get out there and compete and give yourself a chance to win. So go over to the DFS Doctors. Let them help you. They have analysts on staff that look at the best optimal lineup that you can put out there to win money. So why not take advantage? At the DFS Doctors, promo code Detroit Sports.
CBD is a game changer sweeping the nation. This hemp extract is the natural way to elevate your mood, eliminate aches and pains, reduce anxiety, and keep you sleeping all night long. It can even cut your workout recovery time in half. Get in the game today with 20% off all orders of CBD and lavender products from Lavender Lane, a lavender farm located right here in Milan, Michigan. Just go to lavenderlanemi.com today and enter coupon code Detroit for 20% off your entire order. Guys, look, these amazing products are infused with calming lavender to maximize their effectiveness, meaning your CBD items only take minutes to take effect, which is way quicker than those pills you were about to swallow. On top of it, they are perfect for men and women. Lavender Lane has lab-tested CBD creams, tinctures, and roll-ons that are perfect for any situation, even if you're on the go. Put your health back in your hands by heading over to lavenderlanemi.com and entering coupon code Detroit for 20% off your entire order of CBD and lavender products. What do you have to lose? Your satisfaction is guaranteed or your money back. So if you need lavender gifts for your loved ones or just looking for the natural way to ease your discomfort with CBD, go to lavenderlanemi.com and use coupon code Detroit to unlock these miraculous benefits of CBD and lavender. That's lavenderlanemi.com. And remember, use coupon code DETROIT for 20% off your CBD and lavender products from Michigan's own Lavender Lane.
I was trying to get it how I live. I want them dead presidents. I want to pull up, head spin, get it, get fly. I got 6 jobs, I don't get tired. I don't get tired. I don't get tired. Get it, get fly. I got 6 jobs, I don't get tired.
Welcome in, everybody. This week's Two Bad Hombres. I'm the Doc, John Macaroon. Vito doing his thing, working this week regarding signing day, trying to do his thing out there in Novi. Won't be joining us today, but I got a lot to get to. I'm upset. I'm frustrated sitting here on a Saturday afternoon after Michigan State's 77-68 loss on the road to Michigan. Couple things I want to discuss regarding Michigan State. I want to, on this week's broadcast, discuss the embarrassing reaction of a lot of people that weighed in on the Jeff Jackson Simpson saga. For those that don't know, Zavier Simpson, MLive got the Freedom of Information. They filled it out, and they got the police report from Ann Arbor, and they broke the case. They figured out what happened to Zavier Simpson, what caused him to be suspended for a game, and I do want to react to that later on, and then finish this podcast episode talking about the Detroit Pistons and the fact that they have finally started their rebuild, and whether or not you agree with the organization, the Pistons making the move. I want to give you guys a couple reasons why, yes, it was the right decision, but no, the Pistons got terrible value for a guy that was a double-double machine. If you think getting a second-round pick and two expiring contracts is something to be proud of, Ed Stefanski tried to sell you guys something this week, and I thought it was quite hilarious in his response to questions when the Pistons finally made a move at the trade deadline. But I want to start with this. Michigan State heads to Ann Arbor for a big game. Michigan State hasn't been playing well in the last few weeks. People have come out of the woodworks and they're discussing what's wrong with the Spartans. They aren't playing as well. I got to see them firsthand. I went out to the Breslin Center and saw how well they played, how intense that Cassius Winston was in terms of his performance at the Breslin against Wisconsin. Mateen Cleaves was in the house. Cassius was a couple assists short, and he threw an alley-oop pass and he broke Mateen Cleave's all-time Big Ten record in terms of assists. In that game, Michigan State hustled. They played well. They got key shots. They made their threes. You saw Rocky do his thing. You saw Zavier Tillman do his thing. You saw Cassius Winston light it up. Since then, Michigan State has struggled mightily, and you've seen some uncharacteristic losses. And some things that you're seeing is, you're seeing Zavier Tillman struggle, not being able to finish close to the rim. You're seeing missed shots. Then you get to today. This game is supposed to be a rivalry game, a game in which you're prepared. You come into Ann Arbor in the Chrysler Center ready to go. Juwan Howard obviously had his team ready to play right from jump. And how did Michigan State start the game? Getting out-rebounded, letting Zavier Simpson make his shots. Michigan State showed up there like they expected to win. They weren't down for the cause. They didn't play Michigan State basketball. They didn't go all out. Did they play their A game and lose? No. Early on, they missed so many shots. They didn't perform well. They got out-rebounded. And how many times do I got to watch a game in which it's a big moment, the big stage, and then all of a sudden the turnovers start happening? It's like clockwork. When Michigan State doesn't play well, the turnovers start happening, and you start seeing, possessions getting wasted, and you start seeing the opposition, and in this case, the Michigan Wolverines were just able to dominate in the first and second half. And you look at it, and now there's legitimate questions. The Spartans are in a slump. They're not playing well, and many people are saying that, they're downplaying it. Spartan fans that want to be hopeful are saying, look, when March hits, the light switch will go off. The one thing that I will say that I can agree with for the Spartan supporters who say, look, it's February, it's a grind. Winning on the road in the Big Ten is universally tough. You've seen Michigan struggle on the road. You've seen pretty much every Big Ten team struggle on the road. Well, look, if you're going to become a good team, eventually speaking, you have to crack the code. You have to go on the road and perform. You have to play well. You have to show some leadership. And a team led by Cassius Winston to go on the road and not play well is just, quite frankly, surprising and disappointing to me at the highest levels. And it leads you to become very concerned regarding what can happen this year for the Spartans. A team that came into the season ranked number 1. Now, everybody that saw that at the beginning of the year said, well, the Spartans probably aren't going to end up, number 1 throughout the season. That's maybe a little bit of a respect situation there in the polls. But obviously the injury to Josh Langford is just another devastating blow because he could have provided a lot of touch scoring when needed, clutch scoring. And then you look at it and you say, how long can the team simply rely on Cassius Winston to hit the big shots? Who's going to step up? Who on that team is going to step it up? Who on that team is going to complement Cassius Winston? It's not right that Cassius has to carry the team in order for this group to have success. And like I said, quite frankly, I'm surprised that Michigan State has struggled now at this point in the season when you'd think they'd start to build, start to kind of turn that corner in early February. What more is needed? What's lacking? Is it leadership? Tom Izzo came out and said that he's not getting the key performances from the upperclassmen. And it's true. You're not seeing enough. You're not seeing enough complementary basketball. You're not seeing anybody else step up besides Cassius Winston. Heaven forbid, he sits out for a few minutes. It's just the play dips to a point that's just not acceptable. So right now the Spartans are struggling. They're kind of, in a situation where you're not exactly sure which way they're going to go. But, you at least know that head coach Tom Izzo is going to stand up for his guys and definitely go back to the drawing board and figure things out. But time's a ticking, and you got to make your mark in this Big Ten and start to gain some momentum if you're going to go forward in March. Because I could see this team losing on the first weekend, maybe a Sweet 16 team. That's kind of the feel you get with this squad. But at the same time, you could also see Cassius Winston starting, to at that point in time when the light bulb switches and it's March, you could see Cassius Winston start the process of, saying, okay, it's my team. I got to put, everybody on my back and let's go, follow me. And he can do it. This is a guy that has overcome a lot this year. So Cassius, I'm not worried about it. It's the rest. It's the supporting cast. Step it up. You go to Ann Arbor and it's your rival. And it's Juwan Howard's first season at Michigan, and his team is scuffling. And yes, you can tell me that, Isaiah Livers returning put everything in perspective. Maybe the Wolverines, rallied around Zavier Simpson and his ordeal. They're rallying around Juwan Howard and what he's all about. And maybe they heard the rumors and the whispers that people are starting to go, the losses piled up for Juwan and that team, and maybe they are not coachable. Maybe they're not good enough. Maybe Juwan's system is not suited for these guys. But then they turn it around. They play this kind of game where they were inspired. They're hitting shots. They were aggressive on both sides of the floor. They came ready to play. So kudos to Juwan Howard to have his team ready to go from jump, as opposed to the Spartans, who started this game poorly and did not perform at the level that was needed to win. And like I said, Juwan Howard deserves credit. Now, when you look at it and you survey the landscape and you kind of pay attention to the Wolverines, are they a tournament team? Well, with Livers, possibly, but they got to improve on a couple areas, some things in terms of inside scoring, and their defense has to kind of be reworked a little bit as the season progresses. They got to work on not letting every kind of center, handle their business on the inside, and working on rebounding, and overall, their overall defense can be improved. But big win for Juwan Howard, his first year with Michigan, and he gets the victory over Tom Izzo. And hate seeing, tweets from John Beeline saying, "Oh, go blue, congrats, Michigan." As you guys all know, I'm a Spartan supporter, so obviously I don't want to see the Wolverines handle their business. But all in all, when you look at this situation and you look at both squads, man, it just kind of seems like both teams are kind of going in similar directions, in that they're trying to find themselves. They're trying to figure out which way the season's going to go. And like in anything, like in the NBA, like in college basketball, if the team doesn't make shots, if you're going to jack up a bunch of threes and a bunch of jumpers and you don't make it and you don't perform well, your team looks really bad. And for the Spartans to see the plethora of missed shots, to see that in the first half they missed every three-point shot that they attempted, I know it was just going to be an uphill climb. Right at halftime, you didn't get a sense. You just kind of knew, if you watched that game sitting down, that the Spartans were not into it. They were not ready to go, and they were not going to execute at the highest possible level in order to get the W. And that's what happened. And many will say that, Michigan rallied and they were into it, and it was a home game, and so they, took care of business, and they, at least for the moment, quieted some of the noise for those couple hours that was surrounding the program. And you all know what I'm talking about. Zavier Simpson, MLive, got the scoop, got the report, and you kind of, when people were questioning other outlets as to kind of what's happened, you kind of got a sense of how things go. Others tried to obtain the information from the Ann Arbor police, but there are certain tricks of the trade that they can do to kind of withhold information for as long as possible. But eventually, the information got out, and MLive was the first one to gather it, and kudos to them. And they discovered that Zavier Simpson indeed had a traffic violation, but it wasn't just a minor speeding thing. It wasn't just, turning left on a red or running, going through a rolling stop and not paying attention. No. Zavier Simpson was involved in an automobile accident. He, crashed a light pole in Ann Arbor. Now, just at, 7 p.m. on his way home? No. This goes down at 3 a.m. in the morning. Now, the situation surrounding this accident is very suspect in terms of Ann Arbor and the police. And you recognize, okay, someone, you roll up on a scene and there's a car that's destroyed a light pole at 3 a.m. Do you, give everybody involved in the vehicle a breathalyzer? No. Okay. You then start to question some of the people that are in the vehicle, and one of the individuals tells you that his name is Jeff Jackson Simpson. And then you kind of look to your partner and you go, I recognize you. You're not Jeff Jackson Simpson. You're actually Zavier Simpson from Michigan, aren't you? And then he cops to it. Zavier Simpson lies to the police, which in and of itself is a violation. You're not supposed to do that. And it's just like, okay, he gets a citation, and really at the end, nothing major comes of it. And you recognize, the Ann Arbor police may have kind of given some slight preferential treatment to someone by not giving a breathalyzer in that situation. Now, they said that they didn't have any reason to, But I think as a preliminary caution, if someone's out at 3 a.m. and running a light pole, and then you find out that they're not being exactly honest, you can't just give the excuse that, people lie to the police all the time. You still got to go about your business. You still potentially let someone that was intoxicated, allegedly, out on the streets. And then you recognize, maybe he wasn't exactly honest as to, who was driving the vehicle. And then the bigger bombshell, irregardless of what the police did at the scene, the bigger bombshell is the vehicle was registered to a family member of Ward Manuel, the AD. How is that possible? Is that something that's potentially going to be looked at? Why is the AD loaning out a car? Why is a relative of Ward Manuel loaning out a car to Zavier Simpson? Does that exactly kind of sound like something that's up on the up and up? More will come of it. And then you recognize Juwan Howard suspends Zavier Simpson, not because he gets into an accident, not because of his conduct on the scene, but simply because of the fact that he violated curfew, a curfew violation. That's what, was said publicly in terms of the reason that Zavier Simpson was suspended and that he violated team rules. Okay, I understand Juwan's position potentially that he wants to downplay things and not make it a big deal, but did anybody not think in Ann Arbor that, someone was going to find this, with dozens and dozens of media outlets that were going to fill out Freedom of Information Acts, and they're going to figure it out and, try to discuss and explore what happened, when a player gets suspended and there's a traffic situation, it was going to come out. So I just think that step one, Michigan failed to kind of get out ahead of this, and potentially speaking, there may be more investigations and more that comes of it. But now, the part outside of all that, and the jokes obviously started on the internet, and that was part of it. It's kind of funny, when someone calls himself Jeff Jackson. Yeah, Jeff Jackson Simpson is, I think, what I read in MLive, where that's the name that he gave. But what's more embarrassing is the fact that, not this young man's conduct, not that kind of stuff. The thing that people are going back and forth, the Spartan supporters and the Michigan supporters, is Michigan fan, they start off with deflecting, going, a traffic violation, that's no big deal. Why don't the Spartan fans care more about the rape allegations and the rape culture going on over there in East Lansing? And they're bringing up Nassar, and they're bringing up all the nastiness and all the things that the Spartans should care about. And then you got the Spartan fans embarrassing themselves as well, and they're, joking around and, saying that. And the thing that the Spartan fans and people that are anti-Michigan, that what they're saying that's frustrating is they're like, let's look at the newspapers. They're not going to uncover it. It's been uncovered. I understand that there's this notion among Spartan fans that the Michigan media is, bought and paid for, that Michigan has great access. They have the ability to not have the media pressure them too much and say bad things. At the end of the day, guys, Spartan fans, stop doing that. Look, don't do the whole woe is me because people investigate you and the papers write about you. Don't do that. And Michigan supporters, don't keep bringing up the past with Michigan State. They're trying to correct it, and they're trying to, they were exposed. The media did their job. They exposed Michigan State for a culture of, not reporting things, properly and not handling allegations of a sexual assault nature in the proper way. But to have this back and forth, I felt this week was quite embarrassing at the highest level. And that's not how the rivalry needs to go. Yeah, you can question what happened at Michigan. Yeah, you can question the police. But then your response, if you're a Michigan fan, is not to just dismiss it and say, oh, it's no big deal, and then start dropping bombs on Michigan State. And if you're a Michigan State person, look, if you're a State supporter, don't you recognize that the reason the papers do that and they speak positively is you can't just write all negative things all the time. You can't just go out there and just drop bombs on, on college athletes and on Michigan. And yes, positivity sells. I run a website. I understand that if you write that, the Lions are potentially going to, have this epic comeback next year, people want to read that. They don't want to just read, the facts of the matter, that the Lions as an organization stink, that next year in 2020, that there's no hope. Who wants to read that? So the reason why papers do that is they garner attention, and they definitely report ethically, but they frame things in a certain way and they highlight things a little bit more. And look, you all know it. But at the end of the day, they do it to keep the clicks rolling, to keep the everybody on the payroll. So you understand the game. So don't hate on it. It's just that's the way it is. And here's the thing. If people didn't read that stuff, they wouldn't write it. Okay? It's quite simple. Everyone that writes that stuff understands how many times their stuff is getting read. So they understand that, hey, if I'm going to write a positive puff piece and it gets read X amount of times, or it gets circulated and it gets talked about this much, and they write just hit piece, and then it gets that much negativity and it turns people off, what do you think they're going to write about? So come on. Don't be naive as to what's going on. And the reaction from everybody online was kind of embarrassing on both sides. But at the end of the day, when you look at the story, Zavier Simpson made a big mistake in his first year. And he made a mistake in Juwan Howard's first year. And as a senior, you would think that he would make a smarter move, that he wouldn't go out and, after a game, I believe it was January 26th, wouldn't go out and be on the streets that late. And especially, you would think, if you're rolling around in a vehicle that is registered to the AD, you're going to treat that car, like a princess. You're not going to, at 3 a.m., lose control of it, because all you're going to do is open up a huge can of worms. Oh, Zavier, it's a major mistake, but he balled out against the Spartans. Give him credit. And he's going to face some more scrutiny and some questions in regards to his actions and the impact. But it's just a fascinating look sometimes at how, young people, they make mistakes, and it will be very important for Zavier Simpson and the Michigan program to kind of start that process of like, okay, let's understand how we're supposed to conduct ourselves. Let's instill the program the right way. Because remember, Juwan Howard had some pressure on him. He's part of the Fab Five, and the Fab Five, as a group, whether you're a Michigan supporter or not, they besmirched the nice name of Michigan. And so now you got one of the pillars of the Fab Five, not the guy, not really known as a troublemaker, but he still was part of the Fab Five, in Juwan Howard, now leading the program, trying to build a culture. And you can't have it. You can't, have it in your first year where you got something like this. You got to avoid the scandal. And Zavier Simpson, as a leader, should have recognized that. And hopefully he learns from the error of his ways, and he can continue to grow and really help that program. Because if he plays well defensively, makes some key shots as needed, hey, he could turn it around, maybe get the Wolverines into the postseason, whether it be the NIT or the big dance, the NCAA tournament. But I think all in all, initially, Juwan Howard, at least, in terms of the measures that he took action, maybe not stiff enough the first go-around to send the message that, hey, this is not something at all that's tolerated. A one-game suspension, you could look at as pretty light for the infraction, especially if Zavier Simpson did indeed lie to the police, and then whatever factors were involved in regards to his state when he was behind the vehicle. And so, by and large, tough all the way around. So I'm curious, what do you guys think? Message me at Detroit Podcast. Do you side with Michigan supporters that go, hey, Spartan fans, mind your own beeswax. Stay out of our shit. Don't worry about Michigan, and just worry about your culture over there. Try to figure out why your head coach just quit all of a sudden. Or are you a Spartan supporter and saying, hey, here's another example of a privileged athlete getting away with something? Hit me up at Detroit Podcast. I'd love to hear what you guys' thoughts are regarding my comments on it. Real quickly, I just brought it up. Mark D'Antonio abruptly, left the Michigan State program. And I don't think I've talked about it here via the podcast platform yet. Look, this whole Curtis Blackwell situation, this whole thing that went down and the depositions and everything like that just wasn't a good look for Mark D'Antonio. The way in which he went out was not fitting of the man that he was and what he brought to the table. A tweet and then a press conference that he looked like he was, grilled a little bit and just read a statement, and it didn't have that celebratory vibe to me. And so now Michigan State, and what bugged me was, obviously I was being a hopeful homer and thinking that maybe Robert Saleh would come back home and coach, the Spartans to success and carry on the tradition of a great defense, instill a culture. But then, my wife, the first thing she said was, John, he's never coming here. He's going to be a coach. He could be potentially the Lions' next head coach. He's a guy that wants to win the Super Bowl. He's not going to, give up that lifestyle out there in California and right there on the precipice of a Super Bowl and a future NFL job. He's not going to come to, the freaking Michigan State Spartans, and you're starting to hear a couple guys say, no, I'm not interested. So there's basically one name that's out there that's going to impress everybody, and that's Luke Fickell. For those that don't know, Fickell is, somebody that came from Ohio State, had an opportunity to coach one season, didn't go well. He got blown out and has gone to Cincinnati and has had a couple of successful seasons and is the new hot name that people are respecting in that when he got the Ohio State job, it was a time when he wasn't ready to coach and he had a subpar season and he was broomed aside, but he's, worked his way back up and now he's the number one target for the Spartans. And even if he takes the job, right now, the way in which Mark D'Antonio left that school and with the recruiting going down, with the fact that there's all these troublesome fires that got to be put out, it's not a good look right now for the Spartans. And so I'm hoping that whoever it is has a winning attitude, a winning mantra, some new fresh energy, can bring in a fresh offense, blow out the entire coaching staff. And look, Spartan supporters, 2020 is a wash. You're going to have an awful, awful season because recruiting's down. The new head coach is going to have to probably take on several of the staff that's already there. The worst case scenario that might make my head explode. And if you hear the news and it's announced, tune in soon thereafter to the Detroit Sports Podcast to hear a Spartan supporter cuss up a storm is, I don't want Mike Tressel to be the interim. I don't want to settle. The Spartans don't deserve to settle. But that's just what might happen. The Michigan State program has just gone on a steady decline the last 4 years, and it's been a damn shame. Mark D'Antonio got us to the precipice, the memories, getting to the playoff, the Big Ten title wins, the wins over Michigan, and then just that ass-kicking from Alabama just set forth a course that the Spartans were just unable to overcome, and it's a damn shame. You got to tell the whole story. D'Antonio did an amazing job, the best head coach that the Spartans had, hands down. But at the time when you had to make your next move to take the next step up, D'Antonio dropped the ball and let things fall apart. And unfortunately, he got tired. He got old. He got stale. The last 4 years for the Spartans haven't gone the way in which anybody affiliated with that program would be proud of. And hopefully things can turn around. So we'll see what happens now. We'll see if some of the whispers come out and are true that D'Antonio had some minor violations in regards to giving some parents some jobs that maybe he wasn't supposed to, or maybe the compliance board at Michigan State is stupid and doesn't understand rules and told D'Antonio when he comes up and says, hey, can I give this person a job? And they're like, sure, you're Mark D'Antonio, do whatever you want. And there's actually real NCAA rules they're supposed to pay attention to. Who knows with these college programs, how to handle things. They're so, ignorant at times to things that are important. So it'll be fascinating to see what happens now to Mark D'Antonio as a result of this Blackwell case. And time will tell how people will view Mark D'Antonio as the next few months shake out. But I'm still disappointed, and I'm still, even if Luke Fickell does get hired, to be quite honest, do you think that he's going to go toe-to-toe with Jim Harbaugh and actually do some things right away? May take time, may take 2 or 3 years, but Luke Fickell, it just feels like Michigan State could do better, bigger. It just seems like the timing is terrible. Seems like you're maybe one more year away where you could have had a plethora of better names. Maybe you could have had, PJ Fleck. You could have had some hotter names maybe coming from the NFL. It just seems like a rushed situation where Michigan State's targeting a couple guys, and if not, then they're just going to go to somebody, a staffer in-house. Oh, I got to move on from that. Can't talk about that anymore. I'm getting pissed off. The last thing before I get out of here, thank you for spending the time here on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Thank you for reading Sports Illustrated Lions Maven website. I greatly appreciate your support, and I thank you guys for giving a guy like me an opportunity to work in the media and have a good time talking sports, podcasts almost every single day. You've really made it, a situation in which, I've really had a good time, and it's all thanks to you guys. So I want to say this. I want to say this in regards to the Pistons, all right? What a fascinating display of what mismanagement looks like. All right. And I want to say this. People sometimes want to dismiss the haters. They want to dismiss those that are paying attention, but it's a fact. Pistons and the Tigers and the Red Wings, factually speaking, all started too late in their rebuild. This is the reason why the Detroit sports scene is trash right now. It's a unwillingness by these upper managers, these general managers, to tear it down. And I know that you can't do that, and some people will say that you can't have this revolving door of coaches and staffers and things like that. But at the end of the day, in the world of winning, if you're going to go out there and recognize, hey, are we going to win a title with Reggie Jackson and Andre Drummond? Did it really take that long? Did it really take the last 2 years to recognize that it wasn't going to work? Everybody knew that. It was laughed at when Blake Griffin was brought on board. Blake Griffin, Andre, and Reggie were probably the worst big three ever assembled, and now it's getting torn apart. The Pistons waited too long, a year, two too late to rebuild this thing. You could have got at least a second-round pick last year for Andre Drummond, if not more. You wait until a year where he's a rental so that you take on expiring contracts and a second-round pick in a couple years? Nobody on earth was happy with that. But at the same time, those that said, trade Andre Drummond can't complain about the haul because of the fact that, hey, it's at least a sign that it's a rebuild. And that's where we're at with the Pistons, is that we were all desperately waiting for that first salvo that, hey, that Tom Gores recognized this team sucks. This whole roster that was put together last year that you sent out there and paraded to get into the postseason sucks. Your attendance shows that. Nobody wants to be around that. Look, I have the run of the mill. I don't want to go down there. I'm desperately wanting to go down there. Look, look to me. Don't look to your fans. I'm a guy in the media. And I say to myself, I can go down there anytime I want. Did I want to talk to the 2019 Pistons? Not really. What about? They're going to give me the same nonsense, when I went to the first media day, it was all about, positivity and this and that. And the question I should have just asked it was, well, what if it doesn't work? Are you guys going to pull the trigger? And it was all positivity and hope and blah, 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 blah. But anybody that had a brain started the year thinking the Pistons were going to be 41-41. And now they're not going to be. They're going to stink. And that's what they should have done. They should have did this going into this year. They should have tanked. Yet they acquire Derrick Rose. They don't flip him. It's a couple different things. You can want, a rebuild, and you can also say, well, at the same time that you started this rebuild late and that the players that you're going to ship off aren't going to bring you the return. Okay? It's not either or. It's okay to say, I want to tank, but I didn't want you to, sell off your pieces for nothing. You've just delayed the rebuild. So the reason why people are frustrated with management is they're making the wrong moves. Hey, we just wanted step one to acknowledge you needed a rebuild. Okay, you've done that. You've injected some life into the Pistons. But now you then look to, do we trust the people that are going to handle this? Look, let's be fair. Ed Stefanski, what has he built? Malik Rose, he's had some success, but has he built a championship level contender? Now, you give him credit. The organization now has brought in some players that have produced. Christian Wood, give him credit. You look at it and you say, okay, Sekou Demboya, the staff that put that together, good for you. But now you have to recognize that, hey, you got to take it a step further. You got to make some moves. You got all this money. You saved under the cap. You busted out and you let go of Andre to save some money in the cap. But now who's going to take it? Who are you going to give it to? You better not give it to the likes of a Ben Gordon, to the likes of a Charlie V. You better not be paying $20 million for some scrub. Okay? I don't want to hear Kyle Kuzma. I don't want to hear names that are subpar that will get you 12 points getting $20 million. Go out there, find one player that will take your money that's worth a damn and make the splash. And if not, then you better find 5 more Sekous, because of the fact that, hey, you're not probably going to get rid of Blake and Derrick Rose. So it's a couple different things. It's that, okay, good. Step one, Pistons acknowledge the rebuild, but at the same time, you're not expediting this rebuild by giving away Andre Drummond. And that's just how it is. People recognize it. By giving away Andre Drummond for that, you just told everybody, shit, we messed up. Yeah, you played the chess move wrong, Pistons, and everybody knows it. You can't defend it. You played the chess piece wrong. Not listening to beat writers who are there every day, trying to kiss booty to get some access. I'm not doing that. It's just obvious. Andre Drummond for a second-round pick. Well, okay. Yeah, I like the idea of paying someone $28 million, and then when it's time to let him go, get a second-round pick for him. You got lucky that the Cavs made probably a silly move because he opted in. I believe that the rumors are now swirling that, why wouldn't Andre Drummond just stay close to home and take the free money? Do it. You gave him a contract that much. That was the mistake. You should have recognized that he wasn't the guy. I think that's the frustration that all Detroit fans have with all the teams, is that management's not making the premier chess moves. They're making okay moves, protecting, their assets and things like that, but they're not aggressive enough. They're not making the smart moves. They're leaving themselves open to get, shook, to get taken advantage of. And it takes the rebuilds that much longer. You guys trust Al Avila? You trust Bob Quinn? Jeez. And the one thing I'll say is this, is that, they must embrace the tank. Do not be afraid of the tank. It's okay. It's okay to embrace losing for a period of time. And I just hope that in the coming years that we can have a team and organizations that we can be proud of. So we'll see. The next step for the Pistons, you want me out there. You want Doc from the Detroit Sports Podcast. I know you don't care. But if I show up there, the next day I show up there is probably when they buy out Reggie Jackson, or the end of the season comes and he's gone. Finally, Andre Reggie gone. We can start to represent a new era for the Detroit Pistons. Finally. Thank you guys for listening. Follow me on Twitter. Message if you think I'm a clown and you think if you're a hashtag Pistons Twitter guy, or you're a guy that's putting the camera on your face and crying that Andre left, feel free, hit me up. Let's have a discussion. At Detroit Podcast. This has been Two Bad Hombres. Love it. Love podcasting. Love breaking down sports. Thank you guys so much. I look forward to talking to you guys when we can again. Me and Vito. Peace.